So good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for joining this fourth Impact Assessment and Facilitation Action event, so-called IAFA events. I think probably many of you are from the SNS JU community of 5GPP, so you might know about this event series that we launched as part of SNS Ops. Essentially is an event series that tries to contextualize introduction, just a quick look at the agenda. So essentially, after my quick overview, there will be another couple of minutes for Uwe and Maria, who are going to introduce the two projects that are working in synergy for this event. So this event has been sponsored by not only SNS Ops, I should say, but also HS Booster, one of the Horizon Booster pilot projects, and also by Etsy. As you will see, our first speaker today, I'm very happy to have him. It's David Boswarwick, Director of New Technologies at Etsy, who was also with us in previous events. You might remember our 6G Vision webinar series featuring David too. The same applies to Muslim. Muslim is a dear friend of us. He's a principal solution architect at Vodafone, and he's one of the two HS Booster experts who already provided consultancies through the HS Booster project in the field of 5G and 6G to projects who applied. Maria is going to tell us more about HS Booster in a couple of minutes. And Muslim is going to present about 5G, 6G transition, evolution in SDO activities, key trends, and primary use cases. Finally, we have also another expert of us, Tassos, already also provided his expertise in a couple of instances through the HS Booster service. And Tassos is a head of cognitive system at Research Center at London South Bank University. And his presentation is entitled Towards Native AI Architectures in 6G. Finally, we will have a final interactive session, and then we will wrap it up. I should say that all presentations will feature a couple of introductory sessions, actually, where you will be asked to click on a link and join. We provide the link in the chat, obviously, and then you will be able to join our interactive session where we're going to ask a couple of questions which we would like you to answer. A bit of housekeeping: the event will be recorded, obviously, and we will make it available on the SNS Ops and HS Booster channels in the next days. We encourage you to enter any question in the chat. The speakers are obviously happy to answer back your question in real time. We also have these Mentimeter polls, as I said, so do not forget to interact as much as possible. There will be a dedicated person taking care of interaction and interrupting me to give room to your questions and concerns. So you will receive also in the chat as we go forward links to the main outputs and publications which we are going to discuss today. Again, a bit of more insights into the event series. This is the first one. As we said, the second one is going to be on the 9th of April, again at 11 a.m. And the third one on the 13th of May, again at 11 a.m. I know this is a difficult time for everybody. There are a lot of events, proposals, deadlines, many different time-consuming activities, and also mundane manifestations. But if you can join, we will be very happy. We will publish the second event very soon on the SNS JO website and on the HS Booster website, and we will circulate it through our mailing lists. Okay, without further ado, I would like to give room to Uwe, who's going to provide us with a brief introduction of the SNS Ops project. Just FYI for people who are not familiar. Thank you, Uwe.
Thank you very much, Claudia, for the introduction. Yes, I'm Uwe Herzog. I'm a program manager at Eurescom, and I'm the coordinator of the SNS Ops Support Action. And I'd like to give you a glance at the main activities of this work. If you would flip to the next slide. I've got only one slide. Okay, thanks. So yeah, the main objective of SNS Ops, which is a CSA under the SNS JU, is to support the operations of the SNS and to facilitate the various activities that take place as part of the JU. So mainly these are 4 items. The one task is to support the coordination between the SNS projects. Then we spend quite some efforts to organize the SNS as a program overall. So all the various things that are needed in order to get this program alive and working and having all the infrastructure and the interaction in place, etc. So that all the projects that participate and all the various bodies that are part of it get the support in order to be able to operate. Then, of course, in the end, what counts is the output, the results, and whether and how they are exploited. And therefore, that is also one major item of work that we do in SNS Ops. And here we look at specific areas or domains where we could achieve impact. And I've put here just one example, the SDOs, which I think also fits nicely to this webinar today. So that's one aspect where we consider providing input from our results is very important. And going beyond a bit as well, we don't live in our own world only. We also need to see with other initiatives, JUs, etc., outside what they are doing, and then we try to speak to them and coordinate and have some joint activities together with them. The partners in SNS Ops you can see at the bottom. So besides Eurescom, we have 6GIA, NSN Ericsson, Thales, Telenor Orange, we have IDATE, Alloy, Seto Australo, Trust IT, IT Avero, Martel, and University of Surrey. And on the right-hand side in the chart, you can see how we have structured our work. So it's basically in 5 work packages. Maybe just let's quickly go through that to conclude my presentation. So we have one work package on assessment and planning, which deals with the monitoring of the progress in the various activities, progress by the projects, and also take that in order to identify gaps and see where further activities might be necessary and leading that into future planning and road mapping. Work package 2 is on outreach, dissemination, communication. Here we do something overall for the SNS, but also do support the projects in their own activities. In work package 3, we organize overall the program. So that's the support and facilitation of the various bodies and boards that we have, working groups as well. But yeah, we also look at other stakeholders, as I already mentioned, that are not sometimes immediately participating. And we try to involve them and engage them and provide various support for these activities. And finally, to mention in work package 5, we have 2 main things. One is the infrastructure that we have set up and operate in order to facilitate the cooperation. So that's mainly in terms of IT services, IT landscape, plus the organization of the various events and supporting of events that are organized by the SNS JU. That's SNS Ops in a nutshell. And with that, back to you, Claudio and Maria.
Many thanks, Uwe. Without further ado, I would give the room to Maria for her own presentation on Cheese Booster.
Thank you, Claudio, and everyone else. Welcome to this event also from my side. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Maria Giuffrida from Trust IT and Compla. I'm involved in both SNS Ops and HS Booster. So very quickly, I just want to give a short presentation of HS Booster. If we move to first slides. So as Claudio quickly anticipated, HS Booster is a coordination and support action, just like SNS Ops. We focus on providing support to other European projects in field of standardization, any topic, so including ICT, but not only, and 6G is one of the areas where we have, since the beginning, tried to provide some help and support to projects that need some advice in understanding how to implement standardization related activities within the mandate of their own project. The booster is a pilot, so we are trying different things. We started in April 2022. We have 6 partners whose logos you find in the bottom of the slide, and we are ending in September this year. So we are almost at the end of this pilot, and hopefully at the end of the project we'll be able to provide the Commission with recommendations on how the future booster, the full-scale booster to support standardization activities could look like in the future. So we help projects by assigning projects with experts to do a consultancy related to the activities that the project can do in terms of standardization. For instance, engaging with SDOs, having a standardization strategy, or producing some deliverables related to standardization. And we do this in 3 types of services that we have designed so far. If you go on, Claudio, with the slide, one first type of service is the one-to-one consultancy. This means that you apply on our website. I'll put a link in a moment in the chat. It's always an open call. You apply, you write some information about your project, and we match you with an expert in our pool that delivers some meetings with you. Could be from 2 until 4 on average meetings on a time frame of 3 months. So is high level, let's say, type of mentoring, where you receive specific advice on specific actions that you could carry out. But it's flexible, both the timeline and the number of meetings, in the sense that if the project needs more help or spread over a longer time frame, this is negotiable, and it's possible to decide it with us and with the assigned expert. So this is one-to-one service, and both Muslim and Tasos have been involved in this. While we have 2 new type of services that we are piloting now, it's different type of services. One is the support for SEN workshop agreements. SEN workshop agreements are documents that come out of an agreement among different projects, and they are finalized in a final workshop. We can provide, for those who are interested in this opportunity, both financial, technical, and dissemination support for the elaboration of a workshop agreement. And second, we are piloting a series of events like the one we're doing today, where we focus on specific topics on standardization for a group of projects. So it's many-to-many type of service like today. I'll have a form circulate for these 2 type of services as well in the chat, and I think I'm done for this introduction. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. I would like now to invite everybody to access the link here, which we will also copy in the chat, and join us for our first interactive section. Session where we will have 4 questions for you, preliminary questions, in preparation for the presentations from our experts, which will follow soon. So please join the link that Maria is going to send. I will stop sharing my screen. I'll stop actually sharing my presentation. I'll share my screen for a second, and we'll get to the Mentimeter page so that we can have a look as the first questions. come in. Okay, so let me share it once again. Right, so first question, easy question. Which country are you from? So we seem to have lots of people from Germany, from the UK, interesting. But also we have, as you can see, people not only from Europe, we also have people from Brazil joining us, in India and Saudi Arabia. That's interesting. So it seems like this is a topic that really appeals to a very diverse community, which is what we wanted. But yeah, the core seems to be Germany, France, United Kingdom, and Greece, which makes sense considering the amount of partners from these countries involved in the SNS-JU community of research project. Also Spain and Italy seem rather big. Let's go to the next one. Is your field of work? Waiting for response to this one. Let's go to the, yes, okay, we're starting to get, so yeah, someone is working with standards, some other one, 6G standards, aerospace, I think this could become interesting. Security, it's also really relevant for us. Telecoms, right, yeah, 6G, okay. So we seem to know our community pretty much. It's a sign that most people that are here today are from the SNSU community, which is what we wanted. So we're happy to have you, but we also have many people from SDOs. So I think this session today will be very interesting also for discussion, probably, considering that we have both experts from the field, technical experts, and also standards as experts. So there is probably room for a matchmaking discussion. Okay, the Menti keeps growing, and I'm really sorry, but I think I have to go to the next slide because we have limited amount of time, but please keep it up. Keep responding. We will go back to this. We will publish a report with all this information. Right, okay. Third question, are you involved in EU-funded research projects? Please name the project itself. Okay. Okay. Someone is from, okay, so obviously some from SNS Ops. Ether, yes. Predict 6G, yes. It's musical, 5G Smart Fact. REST between SNS Eyes as well. Nice to have our colleagues here. SOPs, send ICT for standards, Predict 6G, 6G XR centric, be green, nice. 5G, oh wow, someone is in a lot of project here, nice. Okay, so we have, again, it confirms the previous one, the previous Menti, so we have a lot of people from the SNSGU community today, which is nice to know. Yeah, FIDEL, okay, a lot of project from both, from a bit of all streams, which is interesting. Okay, great. I'll go to the last one, please. So we already are a bit over time. Which type of support do you think your project needs to improve their impact on standardization? This is a key question, I think, also for our experts who will present in the next hour or so, because obviously they will be able to tailor a bit their presentation around the answers that emerge from this one question. I understand it's a bit difficult to answer in a couple of words. Okay, motivation, yes. Need funding, someone need funding. Yeah, funding is a key point. And I think you are in the right place because, you know, HS Booster is providing free services for all projects from different fields through our experts who are here today to talk to us. So you're in the right place if you need money to start a consultancy within the 5G and 6G standardization field. Yeah, knowledge, lack of knowledge, of course, that's know-how is an important point, definitely. And this is also why there are a lot of new projects that are also working with standards and education. I can mention, for example, Edu for Standards, which is a new project as well, which is going to work specifically on that, on how to bring standardization into education in a more effective way. I think this is crucial, as much as the money, right? So both things are really, really important. Access to SDOs, okay. sounds good as well. It's a fair point. Use case impact, yes. This is also another very difficult discussion, very long, but yeah, definitely standardization is what makes ultimately your use case relevant and impactful. So it's a very important discussion. Okay, I will stop for now with this interactive session. Thank you very much for your first discussion, and keep it up. We will have more people presenting and more interaction needed. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our first presenter, David Podswarwick, Director of New Technologies at ETSI, with a presentation entitled ETSI Approach to Technology Research and Some Initial Thoughts on 6G. Thank you, David. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me and you can see me. So that's less important. And can you see the slides?
Yes.
Perfect. So I have approximately 20 minutes to explain to you about standardization in the context of research. So this presentation you may have seen before in different contexts. I've modified it a little bit for this audience. So again, how ETSI works with research and innovation. What is the opportunity for 6G and what is the challenge? And I think the topics on 6G will be covered in the subsequent presentations where we have technology experts. I'm going to be looking more at the standardization aspects. So look what I just did. I just cut out your Mentimeter survey, and I see these as some of the problems. So researchers, academics, students, and EU or national funded research projects see these as enablers or barriers to getting involved in standardization. So what is the process? How can we link into rapporteurs? How can I get funding? What is my motivation for getting involved in standards? It's a very costly process. Why would I want to get involved? How can I get access to SDOs? How can I use have my use cases have impact on standards? So all of these questions which you've just raised on the survey that I cheekily snipped and put into this presentation, hopefully I can answer some of them in the presentation that will follow. So first of all, I'm going to do a little bit of marketing, although it's not what I normally do. Hopefully all of you know ETSI. If I were to say raise hand, do you know ETSI? In a live room, hopefully you would all stick your hand up. So ETSI is the European Standardization Organization for ICT. We are officially recognized by the European Commission, 35 plus years of ICT standardization excellence, founding partner of 3GPP approximately 25 years ago, founding partner of 1M2M, working on IoT approximately 10 or so years ago, 900 individual members from 60 countries, and all of our standards are available for free. That's a very important point. Looking at our membership, this is something I always try to pull out in this context. We have approximately 15% of our members who are from the research, academia, university category. So a large slice of ETSI's members are innovative researchers and academics, which is why we have a very good dialogue with those people. Moving on, how ETSI deals with research and innovation and accelerating that into standardization. We tend to do things in threes. I find messages are easy in threes. So first of all, we have an activity where we enable research and innovation access to standardization. What we do here is work with platforms such as Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, SNSJU, 6GIA, Network Europe, and see how we can cooperate and collaborate, which is why I'm on the conference today. We also work with national, European, and global research platforms. So here we can think about projects such as HexaX, global platforms such as the NextG Alliance in the US, global platforms such as 16G, national platforms such as ION in Japan. So we try to link in, coordinate, and share information with all of those entities. Another part of that work, which is again why I'm here today, is to identify what researchers and academics need to be able to remove those annoying barriers to get their research output into standardization input. Second, we have a sort of foresight activity where we look at what technology is just over the horizon. So this is a little bit like the Networked Europe SRIA. So we're trying to see, today's technology is this, today's standardization is this, what needs to be standardized in the next 3 to 5 years, to which end we have created a technology radar, which is supposed to scan the horizon. And as soon as a new tech trend pops up, so let's say quantum networking, quantum nodes, deep space optics, something like that, which is becoming important from research, it may need standardization soon. We track this on the technology radar. And last but not least, my job is basically to, when all that is mature, so when the top technology is mature, when the research activity is ready, we offer a pre-standardization activity in ETSI, a standardization activity in ETSI to help build these things inside a standardization organization, SDO. Also, we do education about standardization. So I think it was mentioned knowledge. What is standardization? Why is it important? How can I make money out of standardization? So we do an education about standardization activity. And also we have various tools and things to help researchers when they have a question. I'll come back to that later. Technology Radar, it is a 100-page white paper. It's a bit of a heavy read. But what it has done is looked at all of these different sources, analyst reports, corporate reports, the EU ICT rolling plan, research roadmap. So that was the SRIA back before the SNSJU was begun, the ETSI work program, and surveys to our members and to our board members about what do you think the important technologies are. When we identified them, so here we now have 21. The original contained 10. We've expanded this into 21, and there are no major surprises there. I mean, next generation mobile communications, 4G, 5G, 6G, 6.5G, whatever you want to call it, beyond 6G. Artificial intelligence in its various forms, generative, enabling network transformation, autonomous networks, cybersecurity, distributed ledgers, blockchain, big data. So all of these things, they're not surprising, but we did a very good survey to come up with these areas which we thought were important. You can see that most of them are not really future. Sustainability is an issue today. Terahertz communications is just over the horizon. Non-terrestrial networks, integration of satellites is already happening in 5G. So these are sort of today technologies developing it into tomorrow's technologies. You can download that technology radar there. Luckily, in the ETSI board, we're in the process of redoing this, so it will be much more digestible and usable. So that should be coming in 2024. Looking forward to that. Oh, there was an interesting one. So here you can see, when I said when technology is ready, mature, and research is ready to go for pre-standardization, you can see here, ETSI ISG on terahertz, ETSI ISG on RIS, ETSI ISG on ISAC or JSAC. So what we did with the research community, we created these industry specification groups. So one in 2021, one in 2022, one in 2023, basically every end of year. So this is the beginning of the 6G hype curve, if you like. And these are basically a place where European and UK projects can bring their results and work with industrial partners on various topics. So we can see on reconfigurable intelligent surfaces back in 2021, we now have 44 members, 3 deliverables published and 3 deliverables being drafted. Sub-terahertz, channel modeling and other things. Obviously, this is one of the key technologies for 6G. Not sure when in 6G, but full terahertz technologies. Again, we have 45 members working on 4 deliverables there. The latest one, which is the end of last year, was the sensing activity, integrated sensing and communication. Again, 21 founding members, and that kicked off in November, and they've already got a number of pre-standardization work items open. So that's just one example of how research technology radar can result in pre-standardization in an SDO such as ETSI. I don't have a lot of time, but these are 2 tools which are worth presenting. So I mentioned the ISGs, Entity Specification Groups. These are basically small dynamic, agile technical groups where 4 members can come in. We can get deliverables published very quickly, and they're very dynamic and easy to set up. This is in the traditional standards mode. What we've recently created back in 2023 was a software development group, which is sort of the open source and open software cousin of ISGs. And here, when you have a need to develop software based on open source methods, we have these SDGs, and we have already created 2 back in 2023, OpenSlice and OpenKPIF, and a number more are underway. So there you can just see 2 of the tools that we use in ETSI or in an SDO, one for traditional standards and one for open source, open code. Yeah, I've stolen this from somebody else's slides, but I like it. The simple thing that we're trying to do. We need, or we seek to enable a competitive European industry, both large, medium, small enterprises. We ultimately wish to generate wealth and well-being for Europe, European citizens, businesses, and institutes. Standardization is a major competitive advantage, not the only one, but it is a major competitive advantage. And EU enterprises, funded projects, and academia should be encouraged and assisted to help engage in standardization. So this is why I'm here today, try and help educate and identify means of researchers getting into standardization. Why get involved in standardization? Well, here in a very text-based slide, it's an opportunity to bring your research into standardization. It's an opportunity to be instrumental in the development of world-class global standards. You are protected from ETSI's brand IPR policy, so your patents and your IPR are protected, very important. You get access to the hub of the 900 plus other members. So once you come in with your ideas, you can circulate those with your competitors, your suppliers, your customers, and get lots of feedback on your research concepts. You can learn what direction the industry is going and what they are thinking. You can be more visible, build a strong community, and network with industry, government, and policymakers. So I'm not going to go through all of those, but these are some of the advantages of being involved in standardization. The biggest one is getting your ideas inside a standard, which will then be deployed most probably on a global level, thinking beyond 5G, 6G. Some of the tools we provide, general advice on standardization, contact research@etsy.org. This is me. If you have a question, how can I get involved? Where do I go? What do I need to do? Just send me an email and I will answer. Letters of support to projects when they're just being formulated. We provided a number to SNSJU phase 1, less to SNSJU phase 2, which is strange. I know the Commission is quite happy to see an SDO providing support to a project proposal. So again, I'll open up the opportunity if you're working on an SNS phase 3 or eventual phase 4 and you want to develop a standardization roadmap, ETSI is there to support with advice and also provide these famous letters of support. If you want to talk about that, contact me on research@etsy.org. We have this, well, I'll go into the next slide. So advice on standardization. So as I said, we can provide a letter of support. We can also be inside your external advisory committees, and I'm on a number of advisory committees on national projects and SNSJU projects, where basically our role is to say, you know, have you thought about providing input to standardization in 3GPP SA1, CT3 or whatever. So we're there to advise on where to interact and how to interact. This is an interesting one, and I've just asked a question by email. For the SNS phase 1, we did a mapping between the SNS projects, so 6G Shine, 6G Tandem, and the 3GPP and ETSI groups. So by looking at what the projects are working on, we could identify maybe where they need to interact with standardization. This I maintained for about a year, and then I've handed it over to be maintained, I think, by SNS Ops. So it would be interesting to see if that will be continued, because I think it's really useful for projects to know where they need to interact in standards, and also for standards group to know which projects may be putting input into their area of work. We did this little thing called Catalyst Come and Talk sessions. Basically, this worked with Hexa X, Hexa X1 and Hexa X2 on terahertz, and one of the outputs of that was actually creating the ISG on terahertz. Is basically where projects come along where they're working on a similar technology. So let's say AI for network optimization. We would get all of the projects working on that area, talking to the standards group, standardizing that area, try to get them to build some synergies. Very quickly, if you have any questions, you can go there. My name is David Wojtowicz. I'm sitting behind research@etsy.org. We have a LinkedIn for standardization and research. Those are some of the tools that we provide. What I wanted just to go, and this will lead us into the 6G discussion. This is where we are now. We're in this little window of opportunity between 6G research, vision documents, and the actual standardization, which will happen in 3GPP in a couple of years' time, 3 years' time. They've done their Release 19 workshop in 3GPP. There will be the SA1 workshop in May of this year, where they'll be looking at what 6G may be, working with the MRPs, the market representation partners, who are bringing in their visions for 6G in 3GPP. And then there will be the usual 6G workshop happening in 2025, the RAN workshop. So already we can see that there's this window of opportunity where pre-standardization work can be done in Etsy to help mature the research concepts before it's taken to 3GPP in Release 20, Release 21, Release 22, and others. I'm not going to go into this because we don't have a lot of time. I think you know when the time is right to bring research into standards. If it's exploratory research, it's probably too early. If it's applied research, it's probably the right time to think about standards. I would say as soon as you start a research project, consider if and when you would need to interact with standards, yes or no. And if the answer is yes, try and build a standardization roadmap over the 3-year project. And I know that European Commission also appreciates seeing a standardization roadmap. It shows maturity of thought in research. This is a very old slide, but I like it quite a lot. It's when we set up RIS, ISG, and it shows the flow of money into market. So here you have European, national, and corporate funded R&D, work happening in labs, work being captured under projects, so Damon, Hexa X, Pathfinder, Reindeer. And what we're trying to do is ensure that the output of these projects is captured in standards. So really increase the percentage of European and national research results which make it into standardization solutions, which then are deployed in products around the world. What we don't want to see is all these fantastic ideas and all this great investment ending up in something that I used to call the graveyard of great ideas. It's a great idea, but it never made anything beyond a white paper. So it's to try and get this into standards and into market. This will be explained in the subsequent presentations, but this is where we are with 6G. Things are moving quickly. I was in Mobile World Congress a couple of weeks ago, and it's all about 5G. 6G was very much under the radar, which is absolutely correct. We are working on the research and vision stage. We know something will be called 6G at around 2030, plus or minus a few. We are in the research and vision phase, investigating the potential technologies which may need formal standardization later on. There's lots of competition and announcements and investments about regional, national, corporate vision and investment in 6G research. That's very important. And we are expecting to see 6G starting in Release 20 in 3GPP with the initial studies, and Release 21 for the 6G service requirements in about 2024, 2025. So coming very soon. I would say this slide is a little bit out of date now. There is no consensus on what 6G will be. That's still correct, but it was expected it would be revolutionary. It would have lots of new concepts and new ideas. Message back from the operator seems to be, no, we want an evolutionary 6G, so evolve from the great features which are standardized in 5G, 5G advanced, etc., and then build on some revolutionary new concepts. So don't build a 6G that breaks 5G, have a 6G that evolves elegantly from a content-rich 5G. On the right, we can see some of the technologies that we identified as being potential candidate technologies. There's no surprises: quantum sustainable, optical wireless, AI native, whatever that means. Integration of satellites fully into the architecture, advanced MIMO. Very important to have reconfigurable dynamic spectrum sharing, sensing, reflected mirrors, RIS, and others. And I think I'm coming very close to the end. So we can see, as these technologies here need to be pre-standardized before they go into 3GPP, ETSI offers these ISGs, which are very easy to set up. Now we can start thinking about, do any of these other topics need pre-standardization in an ISG, or will it happen directly in 3GPP? Just to conclude, this is my last slide. An example of how SNS projects can get involved in ETSI events. On the 3rd and 4th of April, we have this non-terrestrial networks for 6G event, and on day 2, Thursday, the 4th of April, we have this beautiful session by our good friend Bernard Barani, who probably many of you know, where a number of SNS projects will be presented. So this is another way where European-funded SNS projects can come to ETSI, promote their message, and look at how standardization can be moved forward. So that was just a little bit of advertising. I don't need to advertise because the event is fully oversubscribed and all the seats are taken, but it was just a good example of how projects can get involved in standardization outreach. And that's it. That's the end. Thank you very much for your attention. Back to you.
Thank you so much, David, for this very nice presentation, which I believe was exactly what we were looking for. Very dense, a lot to unpack.
A lot of information.
Yeah, exactly. People are already asking for the slides. So hopefully we will make them available very soon through the SNSG website and HS Booster website. Also, ETSI website. I don't know if you will publish them, but in any case, they will be available. And we will send an email reminder to everybody. I think it's really relevant, the topics that you touched upon, for most of the people in the room today. And also thank you for providing very practical insights into the tools that people can look at, which is something that sometimes it's not so given. So this is exactly what people, I believe, will be looking for, practical advices. And yeah, about the mapping of standards, we are continuing that together with within the SNS Ops context, and we will also launch an online tool, standards tracker of the SNSJU. Hopefully by April, May, the latest, the tool will be available, and hopefully I'll be able to present it in one of the next events. I just would like to share very quickly my screen to show you once again the Mentimeter. Okay, please go once again, visit this page, because we have a couple of questions now that involve David. So these are questions that David is asking to you, and he will comment on the response that you give. So try to be short, but also consistent with your answers, because David is going to comment on them. Okay, without further ado, I'll stop sharing this one and I will share the Menti to see how things are going there. Go. Okay, so this is the first question. Let me go presentation mode. What are the principal obstacles to research projects getting involved in standardization? So let's see. Tell us your principal obstacles. Okay. Funding, looks big, synchronization, life cycle, roadmap. So funding is already bigger than most. So again, the money issue comes back, but also I believe some interesting lack of synergies. Yes, exactly. Lack of synergies is a bit what you try to do in this presentation, right? To address this gap, right? That sometimes is there, that people don't know where to look. There are multiple tools, multiple SDOs, and you're not sure where to go. Okay, well, we have a flood of responses, so enjoy yourself, knock yourself out.
Yeah, no, this is very good. I'm going to capture this screen as well. We did a survey a couple of years ago to researchers and projects saying exactly the same thing. How do you work? What do you do? how do you get involved, and what are the blocking points? And they're basically the same things. Funding, okay, funding for travel, very much, and for this we have HS Booster, ICT as well, and also even ETSI can help with some funding on special task force. Price of access to STOs, ETSI is very reasonably priced, not to use the word cheap. I believe we have a special rate for researchers and academics, which is about 2,300 a year or something like that. I may have got that slightly wrong. And the right time to do that is when you get your beautiful funding from the European Commission to start your project. So make sure you include a bit on standardization in your proposal for research. Long-term funding, it is true that research may last 3 years, but standardization may last longer. So it's the synchronization of life cycles between research and standardization. It is important to ensure, the thing that always amazes me is that fantastic research happens and then it just gets left and doesn't get picked up. And I think that the European Commission, the national governments, and even companies, when they invest money in research, they want to see some return on that afterwards. So making sure that research makes it into standardization is key. Understanding, so we have a really big job to do about education, information, communication on how to get involved, why to get involved, when to get involved. So this is our job. So you actually know where to go, what to do. The lack of information. We have lots of information on the ETSI website, but it's probably easier that I present the answers to your questions on information. Lack of synergies, difficult one to answer. Yeah, I mean, in ETSI, we have a lot of synergies between our groups. So RIS, Terahertz, Isaac, that all comes together. On the radio interface, on the network, it's a bit more complicated. We have multiple groups working on AI for network, securing the network. So yeah, it's our job to ensure that you know which groups to get involved in. Correct point to engage, that's an easy one. It's me, just shoot me. Research@etsi.org. If you just want to engage, send an email to me and I can then fund you off to the right place. Complexity, yes, standardization is complex, but we can clarify it and inform so you know how to avoid the complexity. And scarcity of resources, that's a global problem. Telecoms players have less money to invest in research. They have even less money to invest in standardization. So we need to make sure that the standardization is useful, is not duplicated. So you have to go to multiple standards bodies to do the same thing 3 times. But the lack of resources and people who know about standardization have that information in the projects is quite a rare resource. So again, work for us to do here on education. And I think I've taken up enough of your time, but I'm going to.
Okay, let's go quickly. Thank you very much, David. I think it's very relevant what you're doing. Obviously, we always have these time constraints, but we could talk about this for many more minutes, and probably we will talk about it in the next events. Just very quickly to the last question from David today. What are the priority areas to be resolved and possible solutions to remove the obstacles? Right, this is a tough question. Hopefully people will be able to answer in a way that is spot on and really on point. Let's see. Let's give it just a couple of minutes because we are a bit over time, but nevertheless, it's really interesting, right, to hear people's opinions about that. So one of the priority areas is the first one that we get is raise awareness, education, obviously, yes, which goes back to the Edu for Standard effort and recent initiatives also from the European Commission about that. Educate, yeah, again, value, yes. Value, make sustainable 6G, yes. Okay, education seems really the main thing together with awareness. What do you say about that?
Yeah, it's good. It tells us exactly what needs to be done. I have to be in more events, and we need to make more simple information available on the ETSI website about the value of standardization, how to get involved, and why to get involved. Yep, so I have to do even more education.
Sure,
It's
sure.
clear.
Also, it seems like, sustainability is also there a couple of times. I think, the value proposition, also of, standardizing research result can be also societal and not only technical, right? So you can kill two birds with one stone, as they say. In that
Yeah,
sense.
it's societal, it's technical, and it's financial as well. I mean, making money, universities and projects making money out of standardization is not negligible. So there's
Right.
multiple aspects, and that needs to be clarified.
You need money to apply, but you also make money if you do it.
Exactly,
So,
yeah. It's a return. It's all. Unfortunately, life is often about return on investment.
exactly. So
Investment
if,
of time, people, and money.
so if your research is solid, you shouldn't be afraid of trying, right? Of investing. That's the
Yeah,
message, probably. Okay,
absolutely.
great. Okay. Thank you very much for this very dense discussion, and I believe we will have time to further discuss this in our next events. We are a bit late, so I'll thank David again for being with us, and I hope to see him again. I think we all hope to see him again here for the next ones. Let's see, he's very busy, so maybe one of them he will compromise. Let's see what he can do. And without further ado, I would like now to pass the ball to Muslim, our second speaker today, whose presentation is, I believe, zooming in a bit more into 5G and 6G. And so it's very pertinent as well for us. Thank you, Muslim. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Claudio and Maria, for this event. I'm now loading my slides. Everybody can see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, so welcome to this really exciting event. I'm Muslim Al-Kutub. I'm a principal architect with Vodafone in enterprise, also very active in many SDOs like Etsy, ITU, where I work with federated testbeds. I'm also in IEEE and JMN. That's why happy to be here to give some insights from somebody in the industry with a very old R&D background and also active in several SDOs. I'm going to talk about the journey from 5G to 6G on a macro and on a strategic level, because in the session 2 in April, we're going to zoom in more into specific SDO evolutions in this respect. So I'm going to talk about potential challenges and opportunities. Then, of course, from a macro perspective or from a real perspective, you need to look at use cases and what are the trends that we have, especially across different industry verticals or sectors, because there is quite difference there actually. Then I'm going to talk about the ecosystem evolution. So, the classical ecosystem centered around an operator, you have all the, the vendors, maybe in a small quantity, you have regulators, but the ecosystem have evolved a lot. And then what is a CSP, the likes of Vodafone, Orange strategy with beyond 5G and 6G. Then we're going to have a short poll on Menti about use cases, just to grasp your opinion and the feedback on that. Then we're going to talk about the move from 5G to 6G from a technology and architecture perspective. So architecturally, how are we evolving? Because the SDOs are the ones specifying the architecture. And if there are many architectures around there, which one do you stick to? How do they all come together into the big overall puzzle? Then I'm going to talk about something very interesting, which is a major differentiator between 5G and 6G, which is native features. So today, many times you have features like, security, quality of service, provisioning. It all comes on top. And in 6G is going to go more to be, say, a natively enabled feature. Then I'm going to talk about use cases and business model perspective. How's that evolving? And then a very brief touch upon standardization and regulation perspective, because more in-depth will be taking place in April in part 2 of our series. And then we're going to close with a second poll about 6G versus 5G. You will see the question once we get there. So going straight into it, if you do the journey on a, say, time scale from left to right, 5G, it took quite some time to come out, and it came out in a very, let's say, micro or let's say scaled down form with what we call 5G non-standalone or new radio. So it was the same known 4G core, that we all had, and we had just the new, maybe enhanced radio technology, a better MIMO on the radio part for higher data rates, but that was basically it. And then it was a long search by operators, like my company or vendors, and even standards people to see, okay, what is really the benefit if you have, what can you do more with the new radio compared to what you had with 4G? And then what is really a viable business case behind, and there was no real answer. There was just, a little bit more enhanced use cases, all the likes of, let's say, industry applications, users with a better experience, etc. You can see on the left side. And then we had in 3GP release 16, a big transition towards what we call SBA, which is the service-based architecture. So the 5G core to enable standalone 5G became fully software enabled. It followed a service architecture design, meaning that you have lots of service categories or functional categories, non-functional categories, like provisioning, quality of service, resource management, policy management, etc. They were all grouped into categories and all developed in the 5G core as software services. And today, when you design an application based on 5G standalone, which is end-to-end, say 5G enabled, you are using these, let's say, microservices directly or indirectly, and that's why it's a total different paradigm how 5G standalone works. So I see a very small transition from 4G to 5G new radio, but a huge jump in the way things are built and done and how things work, moving from 5G new radio to 5G standalone. And then we have seen, of course, with that move, lots of new use cases, some business cases, starting with campus networks, industry automation, etc. Then we move to 6G, as David mentioned correctly. It's still a discussion, but there are already some crystallizing trends, which I will talk about, as I've also seen at MWC and as I've talked about 2 weeks ago. But primarily 6G, the main flag that is raised there is, first of all, to have cognition and collaboration in the network, meaning that every entity is more aware of what is going on, every sensor, every antenna, every application, and there is more potential for collaboration, more cognition. So it's you can, sometimes people call 6G as a collective intelligence network, meaning that the collective knowledge that is put there together, it gives network more awareness, a more cognitive mode of operation, and that's how things work. And there are some examples here about, you've heard this, let's say, metaverse, more sustainable, energy efficient operations through collaboration, etc., etc. So it's basically where this is heading. If you look at use cases and trends across verticals, so first of all, you have what you call in what 6G is actually trying to put there, what beyond 5G is already trying to put there as well. It's what we call smart premium connectivity, because today in B2B or in industry applications, you need to really have, let's say, a premium slice which guarantees a certain quality parameters, which critically influences how your applications are running. Think of banking, of finance, of industrial manufacturing, etc. You can see on the upper right side of the slide. So that's why you need this premium guaranteed concept. And that's why this category is really a differentiator, what people really would buy. If I'm an operator and I want to sell services, a B2B player from industry verticals like retail, automotive, would buy this kind of services, because the regular ones, it can be accessible by anyone. Then you have the category of submersion or merged discourses, like augmented reality, virtual reality. You've all heard about the metaverse. You put on your magic glasses, then you can, let's say, combine virtual and real physical objects in one scenario. You have seen many examples, like people virtually coming together in chat rooms, coffee rooms, being together with prominent people. So this metaverse is really on the rise, and it needs not only, let's say, higher speed on the radio like 5G enables, but also to have reliable, precisely granular managed communication, which is then the purpose of 6G, and then tailored, of course, to the application type that you are running. Then, of course, with 6G, we're going to see even more seamless integration of cellular networks with all the 6 generations, and of course, IoT and satellite space communication. Today, we have interaction between 5G satellite, but it's not seamlessly integrated yet. Then you have, of course, the main still dominant type of 5G. It will be then the 6G use case, which is the enterprise campus or private mobile private networks, as we call them, MPNs. You have also in 6G the differentiation that the data dimension will be on the rise. So data sharing, data spaces that you are using there in order to enable better use cases. So how the stakeholders share data in the scenario. Of course, AI is an integral part of I will show in detail how it's going to look like. But AI is data hungry, so the oil for AI is data. So you need to have more data interactions, more sharing in 6G. Then you have, of course, all ecosystems evolving to be more open with more disaggregation. Things like Open RAN being natively enabled, vRAN, virtual RAN, multi-ISV, so internet or independent software vendors, SMEs playing there. And of course, you have the topic of smart edge. I will give some insights on that as well. So moving on, let's see what this is. Okay, yeah. So as ecosystems evolve and what does a CSP perspective, so the operator or service provider perspective, what does that mean when you look at beyond 5G or 6G? So with that, what you have is that, for example, you can do a lot of federation among your, you can connect your stakeholders with the federation concept. I can't go into details because of time, but federation basically means that you are establishing, you can see on the upper left image here, federation among the telco, for example, operators. So you need to establish a trust operation. So they need to really, let's say, in this relationship of trust, they need to really know each other, trust each other. Then they are able to really share some useful data about, for example, energy consumption or about users' needs or profiles. So federation is established in one step of trust. One step is of profiling on what you want to share in terms of data, and then you are enabling a new set of use cases based on that. So federated, let's say, ecosystem is one example where you can share it among operators and you can run lots of example use cases. I did some TM Forum Catalyst projects on that. I can maybe provide the links to the organizers afterwards. But this is one example how this works in 6G, because in federation you can access all the assets that are shared, not only the ones around you or in your scope. And of course, the service spectrum, what can offer as services, will really grow quite wide. It will be more an inclusive model. So you have multiple independent software vendors. So you have, let's say, small software companies with good algorithms or excellent algorithms for specific purposes. You can all put them in the ecosystem. You don't need to have only one software vendor, one hardware vendor. You can have also AI software vendors. Today you have automation software providers and SMEs. You can have this, what we call mix and match strategy with the best-in-class players. So you can always pick the best player for a specific functionality, put them in your ecosystem, and you can have an excellent scenario running there. This has been really closed and not really open in older models that we've seen so far. You have, of course, the break of what has been traditionally this vendor lock-in between vendors and operators. And you have now end-to-end relationships. So you can have, in like an Operan model, you can have 3 operators taking care of a RAN, and each operator has 2 vendors. So you can have this end-to-end relationship there with stakeholders, and not one to end, one-to-one. And of course, as a federation, openness is enabled. You can be more selective, and this enables collectively. If you look at the bottom up, this collaboration, what is really the core of 6G, the concept of it. And this is gaining pace actually with examples that you can see here on the upper right side with all kinds of examples. And then before we put on the poll, I would like to ask you to think a little bit, couple of minutes. It's just one of 2 polls. There is a second part of the presentation, which is a bit shorter. So just think from your point of view as users, either part of an enterprise or individual users in B2C context. Think of what is for you the most promising 5G use case that you would like to see or that you already experienced, and what would be in 6G your favorite or preferred use case. So examples are, for example, for 5G autonomous driving, augmented or virtual reality. It can be campus networks, light automation, and for 6G it can be things like telesurgery or the full bloom metaverse. It can be also complex industrial workflow automation. So these kind of examples, you can also have your own. It's most welcome. So now I would ask Claudia and Maria to kindly stop my sharing and load the questions, so we can then give your votes, so we can discuss briefly on that.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Muslim, I think Maria will stop your screen
Yes,
sharing,
please.
or I can just share mine. Let me share mine. Let me share yours. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, once again, please visit our Menti page so we can have Muslim to answer to a couple of questions that is posing to you, comment on some of the questions that is posing
Yes.
to you, and you might want to answer. They might be relevant to you. Back to the Menti page very quickly. I believe this is not yours, Muslim, or is it?
This is Tassos's, I
Yes,
think.
so it should be this
from
one,
that
right?
speech. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Perfect. So what are, in your view, the most promising use cases, pairs in 5G and 6G respectively? And this is an open question. It's actually a multiple answer question. In this case, you have 5 different options among the ones that Muslim has given to us. So please express your opinion. Autonomous driving, telesurgery. Okay, so we're starting to get some answers here.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. As the answers pop, seems to be rather balanced, although one looks more prominent.
Okay. Yeah. So we have quite some. Popping up slowly.
Yes. Right. It seems like it's very balanced.
Yeah, exactly. And to comment on that, Claudio, I think that it's a bit of an let's say technology. It's a bit of relevance to your let's say real life. Also a bit of an emotional aspect. So when 5G was coming out, there was a lot of expectation, and it took quite a long time to come out, and there were not many, let's say, real use cases out there. So that's why, for me, 6G, it has now a lot of expectation, and for me, I think the balance here is reflected because it depends on your perspective. So meaning that if you are in industry professional, operator, vendor, or any company, and you're working on something, if you're passionate about it, you want to see that use case come out and add value. So that's why if you work for a, let's say, vendor, you want to do, or operator, you want to see autonomous driving really in full bloom, maybe for sustainability, so that's why you will be in favor of that one. If you are more, this is not today's audience, but if you are more, let's say, the person who is into heavy consumption, so you would like to see maybe more the metaverse coming out, being available at your hands, because there were so many attempts, so far with the accessories and stuff. And that's why it all depends on your perspective. At the same time, for example, telesurgery, applications like this, it has limited, let's say, applicability. So it can be promising in terms of technology as a revolution to run, let's say, with the best surgeon in operation from the other end of the world. At the same time, there are some risks associated. So some use cases, they are associated with higher risk factors, and limited cases or number of times where you can really apply that. So that's why it's interesting to see people based on their, let's say, thinking perspective, what kind of choice they make. So thanks for all the people who have called here. And Claudia, if I will do now quickly the second part of my presentation, it's short, then we'll.
I will stop my sharing. And you
Yes, please.
yours.
And I will share again. Second part is shorter and quicker, so we'll get into that.
Oh, there are, sorry, there are a couple of people in the chat who said teleoperated driving, to be specific, and autonomous flight. Just FYI, there are some answers in the chat too that you might want to.
Okay, sure.
Account.
Shall we do it just afterwards? I will. When
Go on,
I will exactly. As Tassos presents, I will quickly answer those questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thanks for the tip. So yeah. So second part, let's look at different perspectives or dimensions of this shift from 5G to 6G. So from a technology and architectural perspective, there are different dimensions. One is speed and bandwidth. You all know. So there are higher speeds. You have ultra high definition video streaming, which is, let's say, on the border between what 5G can as an upper limit and what 6G will be able to do. You have, of course, wide scale virtual and augmented reality, not limited scale today. You have to dimension your use case if you're in 5G. And you have the massive IoT, because IoT is already in massive spread, but it will be even more ubiquitously adopted. Then you have the latency perspective. So ultra low latency retail applications. Telesurgery is one of them, but you have others. Autonomous driving, of course, is critical. You have to be really, timely by the millisecond, if not microsecond. Immersive gaming is less critical, but still. Then you have the spectrum aspect. David mentioned the terahertz ISG group in ETSI. It's a key topic because you have different, let's say, use cases. You can enable many new things with the terahertz super high frequency with a very small cells. We even have things today like 5G network in a backpack, so a very, very small, like a picocell around the antenna. So we can do a lot of things with those terahertz frequencies, different bands, and in the spectrum modeling is a big factor what you can do with the technology of 6G. Energy efficiency, it's important. I mean, it's a directive in EU, in many other, let's say, places around the world with COPs and everything. Sustainability is important. We have to really take care of power management, not only because of battery life or because of cost, but also because of this directive of those values that we endorse here in Europe. You have dynamic spectrum allocation, so management of spectrum in a smart way to be more energy efficient. Low power device architectures, which are, let's say, more visible in 6G, in this evolution that we have to be more efficient than energy efficient than 5G. Also very important, AI integration. So to optimize network performance in 6G, to automate network management, like provisioning, resource allocation, have intelligent services, and also to have AI-driven orchestration and optimization, enhanced reliability, security, and efficiency. So this is what AI is enabling in some way here. This is one of the most interesting slides of this presentation. So the issue of native features. So in 6G, as opposed to 5G, many features will become a native part of the 6G underlay. So if you look in the middle column of the slide, if you think of your, let's say, your stack cut, let's say, horizontally in half, you have the underlay part and the overlay part. So today, the underlay is, of course, where you have the connectivity, the basic coordination, resource management. So the underlay part of 6G, this is where the features are becoming native in the underlay of 6G. So that's why by design, you have features like security. So you have, let's say, basic encryption, basic, let's say, trend detection of suspicious patterns, basic things, resource management, allocation, and provisioning, all taking place, being built in, not on top as a service, but into the native domain of the 6G on the underlay. And on the overlay part, which is on top, you have the complex orchestration of customer workflows. You have the, if you know the TM Forum terminology, level 4 and level 5 autonomous network automation. You have advanced AI, with more cognition, etc. So that's why in the 6G underlay, you have this native integration of services, the examples of which are here. we call them also by design. In the 6G overlay, you have the more complex, the more workflow, customer, use case related aspects. And then when you split AI functionality between overlay and underlay, you can then have a robust base in the underlay with basic AI operations to enable those features which are functional, like security, like resource provisioning and application management. And you can then execute more precisely on your overlay, your customer use case or workflow, which are depicted here a bit with this underlay, native feature enabled, and the real workflow in the overlay part. Okay. And that brings us to the last slide before the poll, which will then close the presentation. So 5G, if you look at SDOs, this is where we'll have more in depth in the next session in April. So please join on the 9th. So in 5G SDOs, they cover primarily aspects like, like RAN, the core, especially with evolution to the software-based core with 3GP and V16, SBA architecture. You have slicing based on the different 3 basic standard types, which are ultra-reliable latency communication, massive machine type, communication with IoT, and enhanced mobile broadband, spectrum management, security, interoperability, and protocols. In 6G, it's a step further with spectrum management in a much more dynamic, intelligent way. There's automation, there is security as an embedded native aspect, also enhanced with the privacy, which wasn't before an issue in that. So 6G native enabled privacy is a very important shift compared to 5G. You have, of course, automation and native features, as we discussed in the previous slide. So 5G, let's say, built this foundation for transformative technology and applications. And 6G is a step further with applications tailored to verticals. Even 3GP Release 19 that David mentioned, it has different slice types for different verticals and industry sectors, tailored to their needs. You have collaborative ecosystems, as I discussed, cognitive operation mode, which is AI-backed in the underlay, and also in the edge, because I talked about this edge AI in the Mobile World Congress. So even the edge will be smarter, will be fatter, will be AI enabled to some limited extent. And with that, I think I will briefly skip this, then we will jump to the poll, which will close the presentation. So this question asks you to think about the following. If you look at the 5G story we had so far, and then the 6G story coming up, what can we as a community, all of us together, learn from the shortfalls of 5G and do a better job in 6G? Examples are, for example, improve the compatibility and tailoring to multiple industry sectors and verticals. So what to develop in architecture, in services, to better tailor them in 6G to different verticals, or to keep them generic as 5G was doing. To foster better synergies and clear work scope split among SDOs. So in 5G, we had SDOs having overlapping scope of work. Maybe in 6G, they can better complement each other. It's already taking place, but still in limited scale. To implement and integrate sustainability aspects in a better way, like energy efficiency, climate neutrality, early enough into the design. You cannot design 5G and say, now I want to make it more energy efficient. So here, make it in the beginning, it's an integral part of 6G. Is this something that we should learn and do? Or also to build a better bridge between outputs of the R&D community, as we saw what David discussed, and the standard producers, the people who work in SDOs directly and do standards. So please, Claudio, if you kindly can stop full screen mode. If you can stop my sharing and load the poll, which will be the close of my presentation.
Right, let me send in the chat once again the Menti,
yes,
the link to the Mentimeter, so I don't have to share twice the screen. And then I'm going to log in to the Menti once again for the last question that concerns Muslim presentation. Here we go. Right. Right, so the last question is, what can the 6G community learn from the potential shortfalls of 5G to do a better job? And this is once again a multiple answer question. Obviously, feel free to write in the chat any different answer. So far,
absolutely.
we have people seem to lean towards especially integrate sustainability aspects early on into the design of standards and specifications, which is a debate that I've seen a bit everywhere since the beginning of the SNSJU program. So I think this is something that is being tackled thus far, although obviously a lot needs to be done yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can see clear, let's say, polarized trend. We have two dominant aspects here, as you mentioned, Claudio. Some also have others. I think all these aspects are of importance, but predominantly, I personally think that first of all, of course, it's great to see we endorse, our European values of sustainability, climate neutrality and environment awareness. So, of course, we've seen that if you want to integrate something which is very essential, like for example, sustainability, it's very hard to do it on top after you develop the technologies. That's why natively by design, integrating this aspect, it will make things much easier, much more effective and efficient. That's why we see what is the winner here. And of course, other shortcomings, for example, being tailored more to applications so they can really stand out and perform at top level is also another important aspect. That's why we see this clear trend here, which reflects, let's say, that we learn the right lessons, and hopefully we will do a really better job in building together what is going to be 6G. And with that, I'd like to invite you to join on April 9th for the more in-depth SDO activities towards 6G, or where the trend is going. And to thank you all very much for attending, participating, for everything. And I will now try to answer I will close here and try to answer the questions in the chat. Thank you.
For this very nice presentation, which really contextualize much more in depth the main topic under discussion here, because at the end of the day, we want to talk about standardization and research, but obviously we want to zoom in into specifications for 5G and 6G. We want to look a bit at what's been done and the road ahead. So thanks so much for this. I will stop sharing. Without further ado, I will give the floor to our last speaker, Tassos, for his presentation.
Yeah,
So much.
thank you very much for the introduction, Claudio. I'm still facing problem with sharing my slides, so I will ask you if it's possible to share your screen, and I will go through the presentation.
And
All
you
right.
should get your presentation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, WebEx is not one of the tools that we are using, and we have a lot of restrictions. In the meantime, I'm going to make a short introduction about myself. I'm Tassos Daiouklas. I'm a professor in computer science at London South Bank University. My presentation today is going to be focused about the cloud native AI, which is one of the key characteristics. So I'm going to link my presentation with Muslim's presentation. So don't know if we are ready.
There.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. If you can
Should
use,
be
yeah. If you
Or-
move, if you move to the next slide. So
Yes.
mainly, we are going to discuss first of all to see about the 6G and the use case scenarios that have been discussed under IMT 2030. So some of the use cases refer to integration, sensing, and communication, about immersive communication, about the integration of AI within the communication systems, about reliability, ubiquitous connectivity, and massive communication. So if we move to the next slide. So from these use cases, we have identified under IMT 2030 new capabilities with respect to coverage, with respect to sensing-based capabilities, the role of AI, the sustainability, which is an important aspect, interoperability, and finally, positioning. So take into account all these capabilities. If we can move to the next slide. There are a lot of new research areas. I don't know, that's a problem of using PowerPoint across different platforms. So just to summarize, these capabilities can range to massive, ultramassive MIMO to terahertz integration of terrestrial and non-terrestrial, and of course the role of AI and machine learning that I'm going to talk today. So if we move to the next slide, the key question of my talk is why we need AI in telecoms. The reason for that is network and infrastructure optimization is necessary in order to be able to optimize the services and provide operational efficiency, reducing the costs. So there is a need to support the life cycle and operational process to manage services along with the network and the infrastructure. And of course, what is important is the services and applications that can be offered across different types of users with different user experience requirements and profiles. Next slide. So under the UK Telecom Innovation Network, we started last year, and we have already produced a white paper where in this paper we have looked at different ways where AI can be deployed. So we have identified three different areas. One area is related to the technological deployment and the infrastructures that can be ranging from the data center to the O-RAN, to the transport network, towers to the fixed and wireless access. Another dimension is related to the services and application domain, from the retailing to mobile to B and to C services, to enterprise and private cloud. And the third pillar is related to production and effectiveness, focus on strategic and planning, and on operation and monitoring and maintenance. If we can move to the next slide. So we expect that AI can play an important role on 6G in order to be able to redefine the self-organized network. This is a well-known aspect that has been introduced even from 4G. So we are having a cycle from self-configuration to self-learning to self-optimization, of course, and self-healing. So in this cycle, can play a very important role. If we move to the next slide. So we need to take in considerations the evolutions on AI. So we have two different areas that can be considered in the adoption of AI on 6G. One is related to discriminative AI. The second one is related to generative AI. Discriminative AI aims to minimize the classification of errors and improve the accuracy, where on generative AI, we are aiming to get new results through data synthesis and augmentation. Next slide. So if we would like to see about the deployments of and the different options that we can have in a network, we can have three different pillars. One, the first simple one is can have a kind of independent deployment, so there is no synergy between the network and the device from the machine learning perspective. Moving to kind of a coordination kind of deployment, so there's a kind of coordination between the network and the device, where proprietary and standardized MLS procedures can be considered. And finally, the native AI machine learning approach. We can have an autonomous machine learning deployment between the network and the devices across all different layers. There are machine learning procedures in order to train the performance and adapt to different environments. So there is a need to shift from what is called DevOps to what is called MLOps. Next slide. So for moving towards what is called native AI, we need to consider the AI capabilities that can be available or exposed for both the network, different network elements and services. There is maybe a need to split the entire AI systems to multiple subsystems based on specific objectives of either the service or the network function. This is needed in order to provide integration to the service function and deliver a cohesive system. The split AI approach can utilize also a distributed architecture where different parts of the system can handle, first of all, data pre-processing. The fact is that you may collect data from different systems, so your telemetry system can can use different technologies. So there is a need of pre-processing the data, and then we can have the model training and the model inference. Move to the next slide, please. So there's a very nice, let's say, diagram that has been developed last year by Ericsson, when the native AI capabilities, first of all, can be grouped on on 6 different layers. So level 1 refers to the case when there is no AI adoption at all. And level 5 is the maximum, so you can have a full autonomous AI-based systems. And then you can have at the horizontal level different adoptions of AI, starting from the architecture, moving to the collaboration, to data ingestion, storage, and processing, to model LSM, and finally any self kind of capabilities. Take into account this figure. If we can move to the next slide, there's a very interesting report that produced by Capgemini. So they ran a kind of a questionnaire among 113 large CSPs. So the key question is about the network autonomy, where is the current status and where we expect to be by 2028. So you will see there is a large percentage of people that at the moment they see that we are between level 1 and level 2. So we expect by 2028 we are going to be more or less at level 3 and a bit above. This implies that there is a lot of work that has been done to have a full adoption of native AI at level 5. If we move to the next slide, thank you. So I mentioned the whole idea is to move from DevOps to MLOps. So the DevOps is about the life cycle to implement any kind of big data in any enterprise environment. So the whole idea is the evolution of DevOps towers. MLOps is to consider a machine learning adoption to the operational life cycle of any organization, including, of course, the 6G. Yes, if we can move to the next slide. So what will be the native AI requirements? First of all, we have come to the softwareization. We have experienced the softwareization and the automation on 5G. At the moment, we have considered novel computing architectures and infrastructure to manage this kind of data. At the moment, we have seen evolution of using technologies like GPUs in order to handle complex models. There is a trend to implement this kind of AI models at the hardware through the introduction of neural processing units. We mentioned also about sustainability. We need to see how the introduction of this kind of infrastructure will have an impact, right, or the energy footprint. And also there is a need to be able in this heterogeneous environment, hardware infrastructure, to make efficient decisions regarding the workload management. And one important aspect is the fact that we currently consider the deployment of edge infrastructure, and the adoption of edge AI is going to be important on 6G. So from the workload management perspective, it is important to use AI in order to how to handle outages and failures, all right, in this kind of edge infrastructure in order to initiate migration. And of course, this also implies the fact that the orchestration has to be enhanced, taking into account that you may have multi-tenants and different applications and different workloads with different requirements. And of course, another direction is how to facilitate intent-based automation using LLM. So LLM can be used in order to facilitate the automation towards what is called intent-based networking. If we can move to the next slide. So basically some of the challenges, this is not of course an exhaustive list, is first of all, we have a lot of challenges in this kind of environment if we would like to have an adoption of a full autonomous 6G network. We have to manage errors. First of all, errors can be due to various reasons. There are no accurate measurements due to noise, missing values, or from the entire records. It can be data anomalies from data poisoning, or records that can be communicated with a significant delay. I'll come to that in the next bullet as well. So during the inference, this will have an impact of the results expected from the models. So there is a growing demand for what is called AI area networking. That means we need to enhance and improve the data center capabilities, which is at the moment the main focus is to provide high throughput. On Tower 6G, these data centers, besides the high throughput, they need also to provide instantaneous processing without any bottleneck. So how to be able to blend the AI accelerators with DPUs, and how to enhance the technologies associated with the network architecture that we use in data centers. So we expect when we have a full adoption of AI, you can have a parallel AI area network that has to manage all this data in order to make decisions, and these decisions can adopt a kind of distributed model. If we move to the next slide. First of all, if we like to see about the role of AI, of course, AI can play a pivotal role in many activities in various SDOs. I have highlighted some of the activities in Edge, even David mentioned about some of those. I need to highlight the new recent projects, the Open Capif and Open Slice, and of course, how to, let's say, facilitate all this innovation in 6G. As I mentioned, AI can play an important role. Of course, AI also is considered not only Edge, if we can move to the next slide, also on 3GPP. There is already discussion from the system architecture regarding the operation splitting, about the data distribution, how the data can be shared, also distributed versus federated learning. Federated learning can be also a useful tool among different operators to collaborate because the models that can be fine-tuned. And of course, management services towards what is called intent-based networking. And of course, it's not only about the system architecture, but also how to be able to use AI to carry out traditional radio related functionalities related, for example, to CSI, to beamforming, to energy saving, and mobility optimization. I try to be a bit quick because I know we are running out of time, but if you have any questions, please drop me an email. In the meantime, also, there are two questions that I will ask you to vote. The first question is related to an area that you think native AI can play an important role in 6G. So if you can, Claudio.
Yes, I'm sharing the
Yeah.
screen very soon. Thank you. Let's get in there. Right. Okay. Right. So please keep using the link in the chat. Pick up an area where a native AI can play a pivotal role. Once again, this is a multiple answer, multiple choice question with 4 different options. As the results come in, Tassos will
Yes,
address and comment
yes,
on that.
yes. I can see a lot of people have voted for operation and of course customer base operations because you can manage in a more efficient way outages and of course customer base use cases. You can provide and you can improve your customer experience, especially if we deal with premium services. We deal with a very complex environment. So being able to satisfy the customers is quite important. So when you have issues with the network, how to follow a kind of preventive approach and then making your customers happy. And this is, I think, important. Of course, I have seen somebody has also voted for O-RAN because at the moment, even from the research point of view, there is a lot of activities regarding the RIC and the different net apps, and all these applications necessitates a lot of data. The data harvesting is quite important. I haven't seen someone being able to answer the question related to the core and the transport. Of course, as I said, in any telco or in any CSP, AI can be looked also in a holistic approach. That means you can make a decision even at a central point by taking hooks from different elements of the network in your infrastructure. So at the end of the day, what somebody has replied with respect to customer base has taken consideration also this fact that the core network also must be operate efficiently. Yeah. So yeah, there is also another question. There is a second poll. So the second question is, what is the most important challenge for the native AI adoption? So it's about generative AI, about managing the data errors or data manipulation, poisoning, or a data network scaling. Yeah, I can see there is a balance between the data manipulation and data poisoning because I think this is an important aspect since we're talking about a full autonomous network. The fact that the data can be poisoned, this can lead to wrong decisions. And at the moment, there is no efficient solution. Of course, I can see a lot of people are discussing the fact that we need to upgrade and enhance the data center capabilities, as I already explained. So I can see a lot of people also have picked up the last question, and I can see also somebody has answered, has selected the first option about the generative AI, which is basically the set of tools in order to create synthetic data, so we can do what is called data augmentation, which is important for all these deep learning algorithms. What I can do, I forgot also to mention, I mentioned on my presentation about the UK TIN, which is the UK Telecom Innovation Network, who has already produced a white paper related with the adoption of AI on telecoms, and I'm sharing that on the chat. This may be useful as well. This white paper was made available on February.
Yes, please, if you could share that.
Yeah.
Yes,
I just
Great.
share that on the.
Yeah, if you could share it in the chat as a resource, we will also share all these resources on the, I think, SNS website. Once the event is over, we publish slides and then also the results of the Mentimeter and perhaps some related material that is of interest for everybody in this room today. So I think, yeah, we got an exhaustive amount of answers, despite the relatively late time. We're already a bit over time, but nonetheless, we are not too late. I think we are almost punctual. So thank you very much, Tassos. Do you have anything else you want to point out today, or?
No, unless there is any questions, either you can have any questions, either you can use the chat or somebody can send me an email.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
keep sending emails and messages to our speakers. Also, contact us for any extra question. Is there anybody that has a question that would like to write in the chat? I think it doesn't seem to be the case. I'll leave just another minute for everybody else to discuss. Okay, someone is asking where to find the presentation today. We will publish them on the event page on the SNSJ website. So I'll show you what I can do for you. I can send you the link to the event page, which will be updated pretty soon with all this information. So let me just find it for you. Just that, so that we are sure we are aligned here. Okay, so I'm pasting the link to this first event, and all the material will be available here. We will also probably send an informative email about that. We're hoping to also gather all these insights into a couple of reports, which we want to then disseminate through different channels. Probably they will be uploaded to Zenodo channel of the SNS community, and then the HS Booster community, and then we will maybe present them at some point. We can run a dedicated event about that, depending on how many learnings we have to share with everybody. Right. I think if everybody's satisfied and we're all good to go, please, I would like to just thank everybody once again for being here today, for the participation. Also, our speakers for animating for us the day and we bring in all this relevant information for us. This was just one, let me remark, of a series of events which will run in the next few months. So there will be another event on the 9th of April, another on the 12th of May. So please be sure to follow updates concerning this event series, and please contact us for any other question. I'm just going to leave my email address here in the chat so that should any question arise, also if you would like to contribute this event series, feel free to propose yourself also as a potential speaker. If there is any topic that you think has been overlooked and you think it's relevant to discuss in the next few events, we have an open agenda. Obviously, Tassos and Muslim will in all likelihood be with us throughout these events, but once again, we open up to everybody else, and we are trying to be as interactive as possible. So we hope to continue on this note. So if you're also interested in participating, your input will be very relevant in shaping the next events. As we go forward with this, we try to understand, standardization, pre-standardization agendas, and how to create a valuable roadmap for your research. So thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon, everybody.